Today we're going to be reading another scary story for you guys. This one is called Lily is Back. If you want to read along with me or you want to read it on your own, the link is going to be in the description, and I hope you enjoy. Lily is Back. I met Lily in 1991, at the beginning of my freshman year of college. We became really close really fast. It's the way college friendships tend to go, isn't it? Everything is so heightened, and a friendship that could take a few years to fully develop in the adult world could be sold as a rock in a week or two. Lily wasn't like anybody else at her school, in a sea of early 90s college women wearing jeans and t-shirts, or cutoffs and black tights with boots, or sweats when they rolled out of bed just in time for class. Lily wore a dress. I never saw her in anything that wasn't a dress, although at one point she gave me a pair of jeans that she said she bought to try to fit in but realized she couldn't stand wearing. She especially favored and looked great in vintage dresses. Classic shirtwaists, mod minis, tiny-waisted party dresses from the 50s. She had several of what I'm pretty sure were original Diane von Furstenberg wrap dresses from the mid-70s in perfect condition, and one exquisite, delicately beaded flapper dress that was straight out of F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Roaring Twenties. She must have spent a fortune at vintage shops. It's not just that she wore a dress to go out. She wore them to class, to study in the library, under an apron at her work-study job, serving dinners at campus cafeteria. And I only make a big deal out of dresses because it was so different. Today is not so strange to see women wearing all kinds of dresses, in all kinds of social situations. It just wasn't stylish where I was in 1991. Google search image 1991 dress styles. You'll see that 9 out of the first 10 results were not dresses, but jeans, most of them acid washed. In college, we wore dresses to formals and the occasional party or night out, and that was about it. So Lily was unusual, but not just in what she wore. There was more to it. Part of her speech pattern, the quirk that was subtle but was there. She spoke a little bit slowly, a little more carefully than the rest of us. Sometimes she sounded like she was searching for the right word, but she was compelling to listen to. Her voice was beautiful, soft and low. Her looks were fairly average. She wasn't ugly, but neither was she stunning. But men couldn't look away from her. Maybe it was her voice or the way she carried herself. She had weirdly good posture. Maybe it was the way that when you talked to her, she listened like you were the only other person in the world. Her boyfriend, Alex, was also a friend of mine, and he knew how lucky he was. We signed up for archery class together to satisfy our freshman PE requirement. It was her idea, and I went along with it because it seemed easier than softball or soccer. I figured she chose archery because she didn't have to change into athletic clothes for it, and she did wear a dress to that class too. But she also had clearly loved that class. She shot beautifully, effortlessly hitting bullseyes, while most of my arrows, and those of everyone else in the class, missed the target entirely. She didn't take the other kind of classes that other freshmen took to satisfy requirements, though we all had to take a PE class. But off the archery field, she was composing poetry in a creative writing seminar, and weaving on a loom in fiber art course, and earning a single credit hour as she learned to play the cello in private lessons in the basement of the music building. While I was suffering through deathly boring geology lecture every Tuesday and Thursday, Lily was throwing pottery on a wheel in a tiny sculpture studio at the edge of campus. Then there was the spiritual side of Lily. That's what she called it. She'd say she was very spiritual, but it wasn't church. It was more like New Age mysticism. Her bookshelves were lined with books of gods and demons, crystals and tarot. She had an ancient, gorgeous Ouija board, hand-lettered on a thick slab of wood that seasoned with oils of generations of hands. She said she'd inherited it from her grandmother, and it had to have been hundreds of years old, and a serious family heirloom. The planchette was a smooth, flat rock, a slightly translucent gray. It also looked like it had been held by hundreds of questioning hands. My group of friends went through a Ouija phase that was at its height by winter term of that school year. Though some were still consulting the board, even in our senior year, Lily wasn't the only one with a board. Few of us owned the cheap Parker Brothers boards, and the one friend liked to draw the board on her notebooks and use a Carmex lid as a planchette. It was mostly joking stuff, depending on who was there. Questions about crushes, hookups, the private lives of our professors, cheap thrills when the answers actually made sense. It was different when Lily was there and we used her board. That board always seemed more likely to produce results than the other ones. We all felt more hushed around it, and more serious. Maybe it was just because it looked more legit, but some spooky stuff seemed to happen when we used it. Like the time someone decided it would be a great idea for us all to go to a nearby wooden island late one night and bring the board. According to whatever spirit we allegedly contacted that night, there were 284 spirits in the residence on the island that night, and one of them got hold of the board and spelled, "Lena, Lena, Lena, leave, Lena, leave, leave, leave. Lena, leave, Lena, die, die, Lena," until we got freaked out and dismissed the spirit and hightailed off the island. Lena, that's me. This story really isn't about Ouija. There's no demon that comes out of the Ouija board and attacks me at the end or kills my boyfriend or whatever. Ouija was an indelible part of that year with Lily, and our frequent use of the board made the year an eerie one at times. I mean, I know the odds that someone is actually just moving the planchette, consciously or unconsciously, and I understand intellectually that Ouija is bull, but it was still creepy, and sometimes I was actually pretty convinced it was real. The thing was that Lily could put that board on her lap, place her fingers tightly on the stone planchette with no partner across the board from her, and that rock would start zooming across the board, spelling out words so fast, sometimes it took 2 or 3 of us to keep track of what it said, and sometimes she could lift her hands off the rock and would keep spelling stuff. It wasn't like that for the rest of us. If I was on the board, alone or with a partner, I could hardly ever get into the planchette to move at all, but it seems like there was an invisible tether connected Lily to her board. She could look away, close her eyes, and the planchette would still spell fully coherent messages. I'm going to stop it there. I really like this story. I think it's really, really interesting. I've been reading all night, so my brain's not working anymore. But I really like this. It's very interesting. We're starting to get into the kind of creepier stuff. So I guess we just kind of got introduced to Lily and learned who Lena is and talked about her relationship with the Ouija board and spirits, which is kind of cool. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting story. I'm really excited to read more of it, and if you would like that, let me know, and I will try to do more. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!